In today's news, on-duty security guard charged with assaulting female bar employee.
Former Education Minister Myron Walwyn demands the government think of country and not self. Drop the old politics. We must choose saving taxpayers' resources over political expediency.
And residents urged to stay at home when not at work or utilizing essential services.
In addition to that, social commentator Claude Skelton-Cline urges government to get their act together within the education system. This online nonsense, he says, does not work. Don't try to convince me otherwise.
And government held a virtual stakeholders meeting today to discuss the present COVID-19 surge and measures to be considered to combat the spike. Well, viewers, these and more stories when 284 News return.
The wait is over. CCT Fire is here. Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT Fire. Bring it home and upgrade today.
Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media at cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Welcome everybody. It's Thursday, January 13th, 2022. A terrific Thursday to each and every one of our viewers. I'm Ron Grant.
And viewers, I'm Kamal Haynes, and we start today's newscast on a recent arrest and charge made by the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, where we saw a security guard from Lower Estate being charged and subsequently bailed after allegedly assaulting a female employee of a bar in Purcell Estate. Well, this is according to a media release from the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force dated Wednesday, January 12th, which listed Keith Lee Libbard as the charged security guard. Well, police said that the incident involving a 47-year-old male and a bar employee was all caught on camera, adding that the two were both on duty in their respective roles. Well, the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force said, and I quote, "But the charge of assault occasioning actual bodily harm stemmed from an altercation between the two captured on video as she was being escorted outside and away from the premises. The female employee later laid a complaint against Libbard, who was at the time providing security services for the establishment," end quote. But the report said that Libbard was granted bail in the sum of $3,000 with a signed surety to appear before the magistrate's court on March 1st, 2022.
Viewers, continuing on the local scene, in a recent Facebook post, former Education Minister and local attorney called out the present government of the Virgin Islands on the handling of the rebuilding of the Elmore Stout High School. Now, recently, the demolition of the Elmore Stout High School, which we know as the ESHS buildings, which were ravished, of course, by the hurricanes of 2017, have been completed, and Premier and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Andrew A. Foy, said he is pleased, making way for the rebuilding of new buildings on the campus. Now, Foy said via a social media post on Friday, January 7th, and I quote, "You cannot get any clearer than this. The first phase of the redevelopment of the Elmore Stout High School campus since the destruction of the many buildings by Irma in 2017 has been completed ahead of schedule. Now, all the old foundations were demolished and removed." Foy continued, "The contractor, Sandwise Limited, did an outstanding job. The Minister of Education and 7th District Representative, Dr. the Honorable Natalio D. Wheatley, has surveyed the now cleared property and is pleased. Now on to the second phase, as it is soon time for the construction of the new buildings." He said, "To God alone be all the glory. We're in this together. Our students and teachers of ESHS are coming back home in 2022. Now, on December 2nd, 2021, viewers, the government of the Virgin Islands signed two contracts, one with Trojan Design and Development Limited for the design consultancy services, and the second contract was inked with Sandwise Limited for the demolition of debris works clearance at the Elmore Stout High School campus. Now, however, in a recent post, former education legislator Myron Walwyn is saying there is no need to reinvent the wheel. Walwyn said in a recent Facebook post, and I quote, "We must get to the point of political maturity where we build on work that was done by previous governments. We must choose," he said, "saving taxpayers' resources over political expediency. A comprehensive plan for the redevelopment of the ESHS was done by the NDP way before the hurricanes of 2017. Now, viewers, Walwyn and residents are asking essentially what happened to the plan for ESHS and the CDB loan established under the previous government. Presenting a published article to the public, Walwyn continued in his Facebook post saying, as you will see from the article below, which was published, a loan facility of over $9 million was approved by the Caribbean Development Bank to assist with this in 2017. CDB would have been very much involved, he said, in the project, even to the point of doing capacity building for educators. Let's start to think country and not self. The two-term legislator then called on government, and I quote, to resurrect the existing plans and make the requisite amendments, complete the process within the CDB loans, and let's build an institution that could properly serve the needs of our children just as was intended by our government. He then concluded his post by saying, two leaders, and I quote, drop the old politics. Haven't we learned anything from the Commission of Inquiry? Kamal, the issue and the question raised by the former legislator is one that has raised concerns via social media with much residents, parents, as well as teachers as it pertains to what would have happened to the previous plan. To be honest with you, we see this quite a bit when it comes to the transitioning of governments, not because there was a plan before, means that the new government needs to accept it or is willing to accept it. Here we see the Honorable Minister, former Minister, is saying that shouldn't be the case. But in all requisite honesty, we also see persons raising concerns about the design of the building. Some saying there were too much glass, it's a modern, how does it affect hurricane-prone zones? And what he responded in saying was that essentially that could be considered, but we see where the call for former governments and their plans to just be cancelled and wiped out, which has been an ongoing problem. This transcends governments for a very long time. How do we get to the point where we're working and not just cancelling out what was done before just because there's a switch?
Well, I mean, as you said, Ron, this is something that comes with the territory when it comes to
Correct.
Governments transitioning and governments wanting to implement their own manifesto. I'm sure that the Andrew Ford-led government probably had their own vision of the Albert Stout High School, how they envisioned it. And obviously after consultations, or maybe they weren't consultations regarding the previous design. But, obviously he's in power and he can do as he please presently, but we do understand the plea from the former Minister for Education, Mr. Myron Walwyn, and also the plea from other persons, basically, because
in different ministries as well.
Because he's not the first person basically to comment of a similar nature, but there were other persons who residents basically would have asked, what's happened with the previous plans, why haven't the school been completed to date? Why are we now having to start from scratch again?
Right.
But it's obviously understandable too from the perspective of the Premier, basically, and the Minister for Education, Dr. Honorable Natalia Wheatley, to basically do what they feel is best.
Is deemed best.
At
Yes.
this particular point in time.
Correct.
Well, viewers, up next, residents urged to stay at home when not at work or utilizing essential services. And social commentator Claude Skelton-Cline urges government to get their act together within education. Well, these and more stories when 284 News return.
Is business slow? Cash flow down? Hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Well, welcome back, viewers. Well, to assist with reducing the present COVID-19 spike in the territory, residents are being urged to stay at home if they do not have to attend work or utilize any of the essential services. Well, this message comes from the Minister for Health, Carvin Malone, who made an appeal during a recent press conference. When the minister said that by minimizing movement and gatherings of residents, this will help in breaking the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, which has now surpassed 1,300 active infections across the BVI.
We are encouraging everyone to stay at home. This is a period we have to break this transmission. If you have no other particular cause other than work, supermarket, doctors, we're asking you to stay at home, stay within your confines so that we can break this transmission.
Well, Minister Malone also said that the aforementioned measures is the sole practice that would prevent his government from re-implementing curfews across the territory.
This is the only way that we're going to do this without the implementation of curfews. This is the only way we're going to do this and have our public health people assist in the contact tracing. We are down now to, I'm told, just to 2 public health persons to assist with the contact tracing because the other members have been declared positive for COVID, so they themselves have to isolate.
Well, meanwhile, the health minister also encouraged the environmental health department to increase their patrols to the communities in the territory. Well, he said to assist with facilitating this demand, the department was given the nod to increase its staff size to get the job done.
We have asked the environmental health department to have additional staff, beef up your staff even more, so that those businesses who are intent on having the particular crowd sizes violated, we would bring, whether it's $5,000 or $10,000 fines to play immediately. We are intent on those persons who will not wear their masks to be ticketed so that we can then have the particular freedom that we have.
Well, viewers, that was the Minister of Health and Social Development, the Honorable Carvin Malone. Around here, we see again the minister basically stating, you know, if you don't have anything to do with work, if you're not at work, if you're not at the supermarket, if you're not doing the necessary stuff,
essential duties,
maintain your daily living, you know, there's no purpose you should be outside. I know what he's ultimately trying to do basically is do what would have been the case if there were certain restrictions in place. But what the government is saying that they don't want to go to that route. They want people to basically, they want the onus to be on the persons basically to police themselves and just try to resist that urge to be at a bar presently, to be at any other place that would cause you to basically be somewhat in the public area interacting with other people during this present period.
I do believe that the Honorable Minister's comments and requests are warranted. One of the things that we see happening in our community, this is not the first time, Kamal, whenever there is a surge in cases, without it being said, the community themselves put themselves on a self-imposed lockdown. Persons stop going out, they stop interacting as frequently as they would do. And I'd like to bring a reference to the most recent case, of course, our recent celebration of All Year's Evening. While there might have been a large number of persons who still came out to celebrate or interact in any way, restaurants, persons who would have ordinarily hosted entertainment events, definitely when you did a canvas across the community, said it was quite quiet. It was probably one of the quietest All Year's nights that we have seen in the territory, and that is again because persons out of concern for themselves put themselves on a self-imposed curfew. In addition to that, one of the things that I see the Honorable Minister in his comments, which we covered prior to as it pertains to clinical healthcare workers, we see where he's requesting that the Environmental Health Division ramp up their staff and increase personnel. It's interesting that he would say this because this is not a local problem, this is a regional problem. So outside of United Kingdom assistance, I'm interested to see where we could possibly get additional staffing from at this point when regionally and internationally the world by extension is suffering essentially with the same issue. So I do understand where he would welcome, and I appreciate the fact that he would welcome additional assistance to help us fill in the gaps. But realistically, where would that come from?
Well, ultimately, as we have seen in the past, sometimes government implement some of these temporary vacancies or situations where they would repurpose persons from other aspects of the ministry into that particular area just to fill that gap, present void until the surge basically gets back to normalcy. So I guess we basically have to wait and see. I do understand the minister's message in terms of instructing the chief environmental health officer and his crew basically to go out there more and impose these impose these fines, where you see persons in breach of not wearing a mask, businesses basically not adhering. You have to ramp up this so people know that the situation is serious. Go out there, adhere to the COVID-19 protocol so that we get back to some form of normalcy.
And I do wish the Environmental Health Division the very best, because they have, outside of COVID-19, were already extended for staff, and now on top of a pandemic, they've continued to do their very best. So all the best to the staff there at the Environmental Health Division. Viewers, we continue on the local scene on the issue of education. In a recent episode of his radio program, Honestly Speaking, social commentator and local pastor Claude Skelton-Cline pleaded with officials to find a solution to the COVID-19 pandemic as it concerns education, and to, of course, include giving students face-to-face time in school, and what he says as not just online learning. Now, Cline, who was at the time addressing the instant reverting to online schooling whenever cases surge in the territory, said, and I quote, "We are going to reap the whirlwind if we don't get our act together with our education by ensuring that our children are in school." Speaking on what he calls its ineffectiveness in education within the Virgin Islands, Claude Skelton-Cline said, and I quote, "This online nonsense does not work. Don't try to convince me otherwise. I hear too many reports that put our children at complete disadvantage." Now, viewers, the question is essentially asking, what he is asking is online schooling being properly calculated. Cline alluded to the long-term ramifications of online schooling and its overall impact essentially on the generation of students that have really been forced into this learning form, this new normal. Additionally, questioning whether the effective rollout of online schooling is being properly calculated by officials. He said, "The more days we keep our children out of school, the further behind they are left." Now, Cline also encouraged the education personnel to be vaccinated. Since the recent surge of cases within the Virgin Islands, the government of the Virgin Islands, through the Ministry of Education, announced the reverting to online schooling. It is unclear exactly how long online schooling methods will be expected to last. Kamal, online schooling in the Virgin Islands, or the reverting back to online schooling every time there's a surge, is not one that is new to the Virgin Islands. We see this happening across the region again and internationally. What I get from the Honorable Mr. Skelton-Cline, is that we have to find another way. He's essentially asking us to do away with the online learning and find a more realistic face-to-face option. Is that realistic? Do we have the mechanisms to support that in a pandemic? I don't know, but these are the concerns by one of our social commentators, Mr. Claude Skelton-Cline.
I mean, I do understand his concerns. A lot of persons are fed up with the online learning. But think about it. What are the options?
Parents and students.
Yeah, indeed. And but think about it. Realistically speaking, what other options do you have?
And that was my question.
Presently, yeah. I mean, it's easy to say one thing, and it's easier said than done. Basically.
One of the things that I must applaud the Ministry of Education within this pandemic is that I essentially see them really striving and really pushing for there not to be a really aggressive outbreak, a really aggressive situation where students and teachers are affected. We have had very minimal cases of COVID-19 among students, and of course, as expected, teachers and parents would contract the virus too. But to date, they've really been able to, hold it under control, but that is because there's a consistent reverting back to online schooling. Realistically, when we look at the facilities, especially at the Elmore Stott High School, we are still not to the point where we can facilitate proper social distancing. The L-shaped building, the L-Adarity L-shaped building is a new edifice, and it's a beautiful edifice at that, but it still does not allow for the proper social distancing. That is because mainly there is not the infrastructure within that educational facility, and by infrastructure I simply mean desks and chairs. You still have students who are on picnic tables. There is no way that you can social distance on a picnic table. The infrastructure needs to be in place, and I think perhaps if that were to be aggressively considered and fixed, then we could have some semblance of normalcy as it pertains to reverting students back to face-to-face sessions. We see across the region, particularly in the USVI, where the mechanisms are there. The individual desk with adequate social distancing. We see the plexiglass with desk are there, but we have not yet gotten to that point, especially at the largest institution, which is the Elmore Stott High School.
I mean, ultimately, the only solution at this present point would to be have somewhat of a mixed phase system,
hybrid system.
a hybrid system, basically, where you allow a certain cross section of a particular class to be at present physically during a particular period, and then the other half would be
or a
online.
shift system, which was essentially essentially what we're doing now.
Exactly.
In a case, but we continue, viewers, to wish the Department of Education the very best. Viewers, we have so much in store for you coming up, all this and so much more when we return. You're watching 284 News.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a brand new season of The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, a show poised to help guide modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen. It doesn't always involve suits and, bow ties, but raw, real-life lessons that translate to grounded, community-minded, well-rounded men. This season, I'm taking you on an entirely different journey, from chefs to dancers, philanthropists, communications specialists, and much more. I'm heading outside in the field to share the journey of some of the BVI's best and brightest men. From East End to West End, Bojangara, Jackson Lake, not forgetting Anigata. Our Virgin Islands gentlemen are doing the damn thing, and I'm so proud. Get ready to reason, reflect, and redirect. We are the movers and shakers of this generation, and we ain't afraid to show it. The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, Season 3 by yours truly, Ron Grant, raising a generation of greatness.
Well, thank you for sticking with us, viewers. Well, the government hosted a virtual stakeholders meeting this afternoon in light of the continuous growth of the present COVID-19 spike in the territory, which has now surpassed 1,300 active cases. But the Ministry of Health and Social Development said the initiative was a collaboration with the Health Emergency Operations Center Unified Command. Well, according to the ministry, the purpose of the meeting, which ran from 2:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m., was to inform stakeholders of the current and emerging COVID-19 surge and its impact territory-wide. But the meeting also provided an opportunity for participants to be updated and informed of existing and proposed health protocols and economic measures being considered by the Cabinet. While viewers speaking prior to the meeting, Minister for Health Carmen Malone said, and I quote, "But we want to engage with the key sectors to give them an update on what is happening with regards to COVID-19 while providing a forum for them to share their concerns and suggestions." While he added, "We want to make sure that we give this opportunity to stakeholders to have an input in the way we move forward with the management of the COVID-19 pandemic," end quote. But the ministry said that persons with a vested interest were invited to participate, included but not limited to stakeholders such as members of the House of Assembly, the education sector, church organizations, clinicians, business, hospitality, marine, telecommunications, hoteliers, restaurateurs, legal, financials, and supermarkets, security, entertainment, small businesses, clubs, bars, and construction stakeholders. Ron, obviously, a lot would have came out from that meeting. Hopefully, we will have some information about that meeting tomorrow.
I do believe, though, that these stakeholders ranging from a number of disciplines and industries would have been really pleased to have the opportunity just to meet and greet and share their concerns with the leaders of the government business. It is almost very difficult sometimes when you present a platform of such, because when you allow persons from such a large demographic, it's almost hard to really police them and hear all of the concerns, because we're at such a pivotal, frustrating part, especially for business owners across these industries. But I do wish the very best, and I do hope that their concerns have been adhered to, and that they will, in the best interest, I know the government will try to listen to some of the concerns. Onto a very positive note, over in the U.S. Virgin Islands, well over 2,000 people were listed as newly recovered from the COVID-19 in the U.S. Virgin Islands this week, sending active cases tumbling to some 1,882 from the earlier announced 3,713, a difference of 1,831 cases. The VI Department of Health reported on just Tuesday that some 2,000 178 people had newly recovered from the virus, as total recoveries climbed to some 10,981 from the 8,880. Now, the information truly represented data collected between January 9th and 10th, and that was published within the Health Department late Tuesday. On St. Croix, cases dropped some 913, and then from 1,768, while St. Thomas dropped 824 from 1,692. St. John, of course, fell from 143 from day to 253, which was earlier. Governor Albert Bryan recently extended restrictions through January 25th, put in place just before the new year in a move to really mitigate the spread of the highly contagious strain that has been affecting the U.S. Virgin Islands and now has seeped its way over to the BVI. We're hoping, he said, this surge subsides quickly. But if what we're seeing globally and nationally is any indication, I think we still have another week or so of riding this out, and then hopefully it will expire sometime around the next 2 weeks in terms of starting to go down, he said. Now, if this trend holds on January 25th date, while like January 10th was tentative, U.S. Virgin Islands residents could see the return of in-person learning, regular scheduling of government operations, and restrictions being eased. But of course, Kamal, this is subject to the cases and the figures that they're still, of course, waiting to receive. Like us all, we're still trying to mitigate and really operate through this new normal. But we are thankful, and I would like to take this opportunity because too often times the cases, the surge is continuously being reported, and persons definitely ask, what about the recoveries? What about the recoveries? We see a disparity. There is a disparity in the testing mechanisms over in the U.S. Virgin Islands and how we test here in the BVI, from persons saying you can now recover in 5 days to 10 days, where persons are requiring a test to return to employment or to get out of quarantine, and some persons are not. So I want the viewers to take that into consideration. We are British Overseas Territories, Virgin Islands at that, but there are different disparities when it comes to our healthcare systems and the protocols that really govern when a person comes out of quarantine, when they can return to work. And I think that is one of the things we're seeing as it pertains to that high recovery rate over in the U.S. Virgin Islands, but we're still very thankful.
Indeed. Well, viewers, moving on to our final story, where author and activist Maya Angelou has now become the first black woman to ever appear on the United States quarter after the U.S. Mint recently commenced shipping of a new series of quarters. Well, the Mint made the announcement in a press statement issued on Monday, January 10th, but it said that the coin will also be featuring additional honorees, which will begin shipping later this year and through 2025. Well, the Angelou coin has the U.S. First President George Washington on one side and shows Angelou with her arms raising up in front of a bird and beams of sunshine. Well, Maya Angelou was a prominent civil rights activist. Well, the Mint said that her image is inspired by her poetry and symbolic of the way she lived. Well, the Mint Deputy Director Ventris Gibson said, and I quote, "Well, it is my honor to present our nation's first circulating coins dedicated to celebrating American women and their contributions to American history. Each 2022 quarter is designed to reflect the breadth and depth of accomplishments being celebrated throughout the historic coin program." Maya Angelou featured on the reverse of this first coin in the series used words to inspire and uplift, end quote. Maya Angelou gained worldwide fame after the release of her 1969 memoir, I Know Why the Caged Birds Sing. Well, she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2011 during Barack Obama's first term. Maya Angelou died in 2014 at the age of 86. Well, this is great news for black,
beautiful tribute
for black persons in the territory all over the world, in America. Basically, from a global perspective, basically saying that, you know, for the first time in the history of the American quarter, a black woman is on the face of it.
It is an exemplary tribute to the beautiful talent that continues to live in all of our spirits. If you love poetry, if you love the English language and literature and the words that really truly exemplify how we feel, Maya Angelou is definitely on the top of the list. Viewers, that is all the time we have today, but we thank you so much for tuning in, of course, here on 284 News, your source for honest and impartial news in the Virgin Islands. We are honored and we thank you so much. Have a happy rest of a Thursday. I'm Ron Grant.
And viewers, I'm Kamal Hayes, and have a great evening.
Bye-bye.